Supercars on street circuits. It's time for the RaceKraft V8 Veterans US West 200 on Long Beach Street Circuit, Long Beach, California. In season 24 of this championship, we're seeing more great racing, but are we going to see strategy and an unpredictable race that brings an end to Jordan Ross's winning streak? You're watching live on SimSpeed TV. David Haynes and Daniel Yeaman with you tonight at the Concrete Canyon by the beach, Long Beach.
100%, David. Thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome everyone for joining us here tonight on YouTube as we continue this opening part of the season. And I mean, one of the circuits that has got a lot of a reputation proceeding. It has seen, of course, multiple US Grand Prix and Formula One, but now very much home to the IndyCar and IMSA Sports Car Championships. Also Formula Drift too, David. There's plenty of action that this circuit gets in various forms across the racing calendar year.
Absolutely. This is the layout. A really long front straight along Shoreline Drive into a big braking zone at turn 1 with the wall just on the outside. The amazing little section around the fountain at turns 2 and 3. And then coming back around, the track opens up, exiting turn 5, and then through turn 6, change of direction over the crest of the hill, back straight Seaside Way, braking into turn 9. And then is where things get very, very difficult sometimes for this racetrack. It tightens up so much at the final corner, turn 11. Near impossible to go side by side through there. A very, very common cause of a track blockage or a safety car, or just some bruised egos and hot heads as well. It's just over 3 kilometers. It's 11 turns clockwise in the shadow of the apartment buildings, but in the sun of the shoreline.
Yeah, there's plenty to this place, and looking forward to seeing how the drivers can tackle the most of it when we get to the racing action in just over under 10 minutes time now at this stage. Halfway through qualifying, we'll bring up those results in due course, as always. But before we do, David, a quick look at how things are coming into tonight's racing with your updated championship standings after last week's race at Road Atlanta.
So Jordan Ross, the back-to-back reigning champion, is up top on 370 points. Sean McNamara with a great result last time out at Road Atlanta, as well as following him second in the points from Wayne Walker, Paul Young. Ken Latta jumps up a couple spots, so does Mike Taliancic off the back of a good result. Scott Gamble in 7th, Matt Van der Kraan 8th, Logan Barnett 9th, and Troy Stone Street 10th in the points right now. Dean Logsdale at DNS last round drops a couple of spots, and Stacey Boyd and David Kirby did very well for themselves last round and jump up the standings a little bit, but it's going to take a couple of good results and some big point swings to dethrone Jordan Ross from the top of the point standings at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, this is only 2 rounds as early on, but also that Sean McNamara, 2 from 2 starts, or finishes, in second place. There are, of course, all the bonus points to worry about, which may mix things up, but at the end of the day, realistically, the way the points work is it will favour you for getting a strong result. And speaking of, as a real quick refresher, here's how the championship points scheme is going to work out. So as you can see, for every race Jordan Ross wins ahead of somebody like Sean McNamara, he's picking up 6 points for the championship lead. And even though there are, count them, 8 bonus points available if you were to somehow, if you were to pick up every single bonus, that's barely enough to overcome the first or second deficit. And if you become first, well, you're getting a bonus point for leading a lap at least.
Yeah, it does become difficult to be the race winner without maybe accidentally picking up 1 or 2 of those little bonus points, like lead any lap, lead the most laps. Pole position often converts pretty well at a street circuit, and if you're the fastest car, your chance of landing the fastest lap also possible, but there's no luck or chance to joining the Zoom call.
Not at all, indeed. Looking like things are a little more quiet this evening, David, but we'll get those folks on the wall here and touch to show who we've got at this stage. Mind you, they might join here during the warm, so we'll come back to the wall after we've run through the grid, I think, just in case we get any last-minute attendees tonight. But here's who we've got so far.
Yep, who's who of RaceKraft V8 Vets right there. So the race info tonight, it is the US West 200. 200 kilometers of racing around a 3-kilometer circuit gives us 63 laps of racing. To be a classified finisher, as you've just seen the points table, you must complete 75% of the race distance, which is 48 laps tonight. Starting fuel, 50 litres. Tank capacity, 70%. Typically, these can become a very fuel-saving type of race, with it being difficult to pass on a straight circuit. Very easy to back your pace up and keep your track position. So looking at those two numbers, it definitely seems like they're trying to engineer a narrower pit window and reduce how early in the race the critical lap comes up, so that we don't have everyone clearing all their compulsory pit stops in the first 5 laps of a 63-lap race. And it makes the total fuel drop somewhere above 120 to 130 litres. 2 compulsory pit stops are back tonight, and that compulsory pit stop window opens at the end of lap 2. Critical lap for the second stop, about the halfway distance, but just fractionally before. This is a circuit where if you really need to fuel save, you can do a lot of it while still keeping someone behind you.
Yeah, it does feel like with the combination of low starting fuel and the fuel tank cap, it's become pretty common with these races that we're not really going to see as much of the classic as you've coined it, the Long Beach situation. Also, this is the first time I think since we've started covering vets and the series has come to Long Beach that we've done more than a 150k race. So I think there's a little bit of that there in it too. But this is what that looks like graph form, and yeah, basically we're going to need lots of safety cars to even bring that much further forward than say lap 29 is the absolute earliest with a lot of fuel saving that you can make it work.
Yeah, the red line there is effectively the Long Beach situation in quotes. Get your first compulsory pit stop done as early as possible, and then pit when we reach the critical lap number, and you see that that is lap 30, lap 31, and if there was a safety car around that point in time. And of course that'd change it a little bit. Going as late as you possibly can would be the teal line, and somewhere in between would be the yellow line. So we don't expect to see anyone pit much later than lap 49 or 50, but also you can't front load the pit stops in the race quite as much as some other rounds or some other times here at Long Beach.
Starting fuel does prevent you from getting to the 1/3 distance of lap 21, and by several laps too. So that middle phase of the race is going to be interesting, I think. We've generally seen a tendency to want to stay out and go long for most people in this car, in this race, and noting that if you want to get an extra lap over the fuel numbers I've got, where if you're already saving to make 18, to get a 19th on the opening 50 litres, you're down in the just over 2.6 litres a lap, which is over 200 mil off of sort of what I'd call the baseline of 2.85 around this circuit. You want to stretch your full 93 litre tank to 35 laps. You're also knocking off 200 mil and getting down into the mid 2.65 litre per lap range here tonight, David.
Yes, indeed. A couple of other things to cover off before we go racing. Like the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day from last round.
Yeah. It
was the question, like, do we have that?
We'll certainly have the graphic ready. I just need to actually do a bit of a I keep doing this moment where I need to remember who it is before we actually go live. It might do me a favor and a solid there. So I will quickly go and recall who we picked up for that. If you don't beat me to it, that is. And certainly I'll get that up here on screen in a second. So
every round it's incumbent upon us to pick a Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day, and there's no real official criteria for it. We often take the starting place of the biggest movers in the race and then sort of work out from there. Did we like the kind of race that they had? I'm always of the opinion that someone who didn't set a qualifying time shouldn't get it. But often we gave it to a series debutante in round 1.
Not a debutante this time, that's for sure. I can tell you that much with confidence. This here was our round 2 driver of the day, Ken Latta, in the Fishy Motorsports 269. A solid race, up from 8th. Started in 8th, so it wasn't a bad qualifying night for him, and finished 5th at the end of the day. And driving an alternate strategy was Scott Gamble, which worked out in a pretty decent spot for the both of them. But we gave it to Ken last time out.
Yep, fantastic. We'll see what unravels in 200 kilometers of Long Beach, because there could be surprises to come.
Indeed. And lo and behold, just as I was saying, now that we're into the warm-up phase, we've got a few more drivers on the Zoom wall, so might pick them up here real quick, David, as we're getting towards time of the show. And we'll go to the grid, and there you are. But they're still piling in here.
We'll cover off all of them at some point, but you've got Luke Allman, Scott Gamble. The Dino Dinos just picked up a little bit as we get towards gridding and race time. Jeff Thomas there, Damien Cairns, Travis Hunt, Chad Lewis by the looks of things, Greg Sharp. Sean McNamara's hand's a bit cold. Fair enough. John Gallen, I don't think his arms are going to be cold, or the top of his head. Stacey Boyd staying hydrated. Wayne Walker down there. Ken Latta, the reigning Chubby Bunsberger's driver of the day. Michael Stewart. And we've worked out all of the tips and tricks to his little poster as well last time around. And Christian Smart there, I think. What were you telling me about Michael Stewart?
Yeah, there's been a bit of an update for Michael. I might... I told you about it. And what I'll do is I'll keep it a little bit of a secret from those watching along if they don't know yet. Because I can bring up the grid for us now, folks, to actually start walking through how they're going to line up for our 200k here tonight. And it's Jordan Ross on the pole once again. Michael's actually missing from this front page, so it's not going to show, but he'll be on the next page. So keep an eye out for the 919 starting out of 7th tonight. But go through our top 6 real quick. Scott Gamble in the front row, less than 100th between Jay Ross and Scott for the start of this one here tonight. Wayne Walker will be out of 3rd. Paul Young, another strong qualifying result for Paul, which has kept him in the top 4 of the championship to match P4 on the grid here tonight. Sean McNamara a little further back here in 5th, and it's Dean Logsdale alongside him. Good to see Dean back on the grid after having to miss out on last race in the hospital. And then after an all 9.5 row 3, 9.5 has picked up a new driver here from the V8 Vets, and Michael Stewart joining the stable, and will be out of 7th here tonight, David.
Alongside him will be Jeff Thomas in 8th, John Latham in 9th, Andrew Rushworth in 10th. One of the drivers promoted to Split 1 for this season. Troy Stone Street in 11th, Justin McLean in 12th on the grid. Will be a standing start on the front straight. Christopher Burridge in 13th, Wayne Sanderson in 14th, Ray Smith 15th, Luke Allman is top of the Zoom wall. He's 16th on the grid. Stewie Hall's in 17th with Travis Hunt in 18th, 10 positions behind his teammate. Chad Lewis 19th, Chris Miller 20th. It's Michael Whiting in 21st, Matty Mascord in 22nd, Stacey Boyd in 23rd, and Ken Latta is back in 24th. A little bit of a surprise to me to see him that deep in the field, a driver that we've seen on the podium many, many times. David Kirby in 25th, Mark Poynton in 26th. The Dino Dino, Dean Flavel, is in 27th with John Gallen in 28th. Greg Sharp, 29th, and Gary Buckland is 30th. Jim Caparonis will start from 31st with Damien Cairns in 32nd, Steve Kennedy in 33rd, Matt Muggleton in 34th, Matt Brunt in 35th, and then Christian Smart in 36th. More field spread on a street circuit than you might see otherwise. Ben Morris in 37 is the last driver who set a qualifying time. Darren Lobb and David Nash are without one, but may still start. And with a grid that size, a standing start at a circuit usually used to rolling starts, it's a good thing the start-finish line is as far down Shoreline Drive as it is, because otherwise the drivers 30th and plus in the field are very, very close to that hairpin right at the end. Another look, 63 laps to bring us to 200 kilometres, 2 compulsory pit stops.
You're just saying there how far back the drivers are. Yeah, here's David Nash's spot at the very rear of the field to kick things off here tonight.
And the yellow light means his engine is stalled. I hope you restart that before we get going, because the revs for everyone are about to rise on the streets of Long Beach for RaceKraft V8 Vets. 200 kilometers of Long Beach. With Jordan Ross on pole, we'll get underway now. And the inside run from Scott Gamble does get a very good launch. There's a huge variety of traction from those online and those offline. Jordan Ross will still be able to hold the inside line, but Scott Gamble has immense speed heading down towards turn 1. A pinch point at the apex here. Gamble jumps in behind. A massive pinch point deeper in the field. Seeing most of them work their way through cleanly at the start of this 200 kilometers. It's bumper to bumper. It's a parking lot in the fountain. And Jordan Ross leads the field out of turn 5.
So far hanging on all right, David, as they come up to the back of the circuit. I need to know
how Darren Lobb has gained 15 positions. Well, possibly. Another one. Okay, maybe like that.
Possibly, but his front end is pretty clean, so I'd suspect not too much
he didn't
like
hit that car. That car was spun. He's not using the chrome horn to get him out of the way. It's just the seas are opening up for him and there's more drama. Heading onto Seaside Way underneath the apartments. Stuart Hall facing the wrong way in the Nova Sim Sports car. Really does tighten up from a wide switchback. Heading in there, it really tightens up here, heading into the final hairpin. I think we're going to see a move happen there. Oh no. We always need a static cam of the hairpin on the opening lap. It's crazy. But it is one lap completed of 63 today.
Oh, trouble there for Matty Mascord, turn 1. Rubs up against the wall a couple of times, but he...
Trouble in turn 1 for Matt Muggleton. Gee. So with all of this, surprisingly, there actually are no mechanical black flags out there, despite the number of damaged and spun cars that have occurred on lap 1. So no safety car looks like it's going to be happening. That doesn't look like a car that's in a particularly good way, though.
No, when you're missing that much of the rear bumper, it's going to be a rough ride around. No mechanical black flag yet either for Muggleton, but you'll have to soldier on in that state there. Is up the front's where the pace is currently at. Surprise, surprise. Scott Gamble puts in the fastest lap of the race so far. 1:20.7 to kick things off here in the early stages.
With no safety car, the compulsory pit stop window opens, but it really compromises your strategy if you take your first stop now. We've seen how narrow the pit windows are, how narrow you make that option for yourself around the timing of the second stop if you take your first stop now. Matt Muggleton, with the damage he's got, will be coming in, but no one else has. This is where some of the incidents took place early on in the race. Climbing over the curb there, tightens up heading onto Seaside Way. Jordan Ross leading Scott Gamble, Wayne Walker, Paul Young and Sean McNamara. The top 6 of the field unchanged in their order from qualifying and the grid. But then there are some significant changes deeper in the field. Like Darren Lobb somehow is plus 16. And I'm somehow shocked but not shocked.
Yes, it's one of those things there indeed. Fast lap taken by J. Ross. Now here on lap 3.
So much to see and look at on the track, but round the track, turn that way if you're going to go look at the Queen Mary. You turn this way if you're going to go buy yourself a new jumper at H&M. And right here, there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard. And then heading towards where the drifting takes place in the final sector of the lap. And to boot, there's an aquarium in the middle of the racetrack.
The more you know about, the more you learn about this place. Fascinating indeed.
Well, I'm thinking of some other street circuits, and every time I've been to Surfers Paradise, there's been some creatures inside of the racetrack there as well.
Okay, well, it all keeps adding up then.
Mark Poynton is going to pit from relatively high in the field. So is that strategic or is it damage? I could see it being potentially strategic at this point on lap 5. Pit lane here is interesting at Long Beach. It's quite a tight chicane to get into the pits on the pit entry, and then it is a long pit lane at 64 kilometers an hour. Pit delta here is very high. The transit time is more than 25 seconds. We were the other night earlier this week at Aussie Car at VIR South, where the pit lane transit time is about 9 seconds. So there are some huge differences there. And of course, the pit lane transit time at Spa Endurance used to be basically a minute. Pit entries just to the right there.
First couple of black flags for the night. Coming through now from race control. I actually don't quite have a read on who that was for. Sorry, what it was for. So definitely who it was for, though. Darren Goosey, one of them. And Chris Miller, the other.
Yeah, I didn't catch all of those incidents. I'm pretty sure one of them would have been coming on to this corner here early on. Oh, from all the positions gained, Darren Lobb's gone around and he's dropping them back. What has happened for Darren Lobb here at 1 point plus 16 positions? Now back to 32nd.
Oh. Trouble for Matt Brunt. He ends up down in the fence. Steve Kennedy also going to pick up a black flag from race control. I think I just heard there it was for a lap 1 incident.
Well, Kennedy and Muggleton were together. We saw Muggleton without the rear bumper. You can see Steve Kennedy with quite a lot of damage to his front bumper. And so whether it was that incident or another one, the damage to the front bumper is a little bit telling for Kennedy. So with a couple of black flags out and a little deeper into the race, a couple more drivers are going to grab pit stops. Jim Caparonis is in. Steve Kennedy will have the penalty to serve. So there's the entry, and then you slow down to 64 kilometers an hour. And it is a long run along Shoreline Drive to serve it. So here's how things are shaping up. higher in the field. Jordan Ross just almost a second away from Scott Gamble. Michael Stewart here in 8th behind Jeff Thomas. There's Justin McLean, Troy Stone Street, Christopher Burridge, Ray Smith coming through, and then Chad Lewis, Ken Latters +7 positions to 17th from 24th on the grid. Chris Miller just comes through shot, and he's got the drive-through penalty to serve. Michael Whiting and David Kirby. Jeff Thomas qualified 8th, a good result for him, and now he runs 7th at the moment, having passed Michael Stewart so far in this stint.
Drivers on the Zoom wall tonight. Feels appropriate to perhaps check in with Michael a little bit here. As I said, new team affiliation for this round onwards, joining the 9.5 SimSport stable, but still, of course, running the Balin Stewart Foundation's branding there. Hashtag Been the Blade for Balin there on the doors of the 919. Continuing the work and the awareness for helping prevent knife crime, and after Michael and his wife, forgive me, Michael, apologize, I've forgotten your wife's name, losing their son Balin to it was a tragic moment for their family, but converting that moment into a force for change and a force for good in the Queensland community and beyond.
And he's running well at Long Beach, inside of the top 10 still at the moment. A little holding pattern kind of before we get to the first pit stop. Might be some looking to extend a little bit. Not sure who really gives the look of saving fuel. Who's giving the impression that they're really trying to move the window deep as they possibly can on this first stint, where every driver started on the grid with 50 litres in the tank. And Latter, oh, he's in the wall, and there's a pile up behind him coming on to Seaside Way. Luke Allman, I think, has quite a bit of damage, and hey, there goes the front bumper. Someone's going to have to collect that from their balcony for Ken Latter. So he went wide. He caught a tiny offset sliver of the tyre barrier, went into the wall, and then caught the two drivers behind him.
Oh dear me. Okay, well, we'll pull it up in just a moment, folks, with some replays for the night as Latter dives to the pit lane and try and piece together
Travis Hunt and Allman, I think it was, that were just behind him, and when the driver in front of you clips the wall or something like that, you're trying to get a good run onto the next corner, following them as closely as possibly, and it catches you out behind. So Latter's just a little wide there, and then gets the wall. Allman's around and gets just a tiny extra tap. So Latter's got Chad Lewis, I think, in front of him, who he ends up a little sort of alongside of heading into the braking zone, and that just keeps Latter a little bit wide, finds a tiny bit of marbles, finds a little tiny bit of the tyre barrier, which hits him into the concrete and bounces him back out and catches out Luke Allman.
So there we go, piecing that one there together for Ken, unfortunately. And so an earlier than expected stop, I'm sure, for him.
For Wayne Walker, who is running 3rd or 4th and is in right now after 10 laps. So this is a driver who was very high up the field, going for an early stop. This is long run down the pit lane in search of his crew. There are 46 pit stalls here, so everyone gets their own. Show you, Darren Goosey does not lead the race.
No. Firm. there. Ah, that's why. Let's try this now. That's more like it.
It's more factual. It's probably not how Darren Goosey would like it. He's
Oh, no,
already
certainly
served
not.
a drive-through penalty. So Wayne Walker's now the highest running car to have made the first of 2 compulsory pit stops, and then Mark Pointer and then Matty Mascord taking one right now.
Paul Young also into the lane. Up in 7th.
Oh no, Wayne Walker has got a black flag on the pit exit. So you've got a long painted line on the run down towards turn 1 that you cannot cross. And as you turn into turn 1, it's always so tempting to take a little more of it, but you need to stay wide of turn 1. It's the blue, double blue line, and Wayne Walker has probably just taken about half a car width too much of it and given himself a drive-through penalty for an unsafe pit exit. You've got to stay. Yeah, it's where the blue cone is. You can't turn into the corner until you've passed the blue cone.
Yeah, as you said, the tiniest bit to aggro indeed.
And the thing is, they all would have driven out of their pit stall and out of pit exit in qualifying, in practice, in the warm-up. And if you do it wrong then, you get a penalty too. So it's this urge in the race to push the limits more than you did exiting the pit lane in qualifying or any other time. It's not like it's a mystery, you know, the rules of the pit exit to everyone, because your qualifying times wouldn't count if you cut that exiting the pit lane at the start of qualifying. It's just in the heat of battle here, Wayne Walker's decided, I need just a little bit more, and he's taken just a little bit too much.
And, that'll do it for him, unfortunately, in terms of ending up in a spot, a bother. So he'll try and recover from here, but probably going to need a bit of safety car help to make it happen. Meanwhile, back towards the front, but not the very top of town, because Jordan Ross is apparently quite comfy up there. Scott Gamble and Sean McNamara working sort of together of sorts, but McNamara up 2 and right on the bumper of Gamble here, David, looking for the inside down into
We
turn
love
10.
a former teammate situation between Scott Gamble and Sean McNamara. Scott Gamble, are you telling me going back to Evolution Racing
Yes.
Team?
That's correct. ERT to WKMP, well, private tier for a fraction, then to WKMP, then to 9.5, and now back to ERT. I believe I've got that right. Apologies if I have got that slightly off there, Scott, with the order of the teams.
Jeff Thomas is going to pit from 5th place. Andrew Rushworth is going to pit from 10th. And just noticing that, you know, with the penalties, the incidents, some long pit stops, there is actually traffic between Gamble and the race leader here as well. So maybe some drivers are sort of looking at approaching a tiny bit of traffic and thinking, actually, I'm going to take my pit stop now, if I can. It'd be Travis Hunt who has taken his stop, and just by virtue of that, it was 1 minute from pit in to pit out for his pit stop. Meanwhile, the leader's doing 1 minute 20, so you only need to be 20 seconds behind the race leader, take a normal pit stop, and end up a lap down, because it's just a 3-kilometer lap with a long pit and slow pit lane. An incredibly normal 29 seconds of fuel for Travis Hunt puts him off the lead lap until Jordan Ross takes his pit stop. Scott Gamble's going to take his from 2nd. Sean McNamara released somewhat. And Jeff Thomas has a black flag exiting the pit lane. A few drivers are going to do that.
right on board here with Travis for a moment as he follows, as you said, your race leader Jordan Ross. We're not far away, David, from running out of fuel here in the opening stint. 17 if they're pushing, 18 if they're looking to save a little bit, 19 if they're really saving a lot, but haven't seen that too far. This is what it looks like for Travis on board his car here.
He can race and chew gum at the same time, and he also managed to exit pit lane without a penalty like his teammate Jeff Thomas has done. About 15 seconds behind Jeff Thomas at the moment, but then Thomas is going to be back in to serve the black flag, and it is almost 30 seconds that will cost you. He's going to run it a little bit later before he takes that penalty, Jeff Thomas, but it's not going to clear itself. He appears with the black flag on the graphics as well. Jordan Ross pits from the race lead. Sean McNamara is looking for a long run and a fuel-saving run. Maybe that's the risk that he's going to take. So McNamara will get scored a lap lead. Dean Logsdale second. Michael Stewart into third. John Latham also stopping. Christian Smart, Ben Morris, Gary Buckland all racing each other. No pit stops yet from those drivers. Can't see Scott Gamble particularly close to them. He's the highest running driver to have made a pit stop at the moment. Until Jordan Ross comes back into the race, and there he is just behind this group. So that is the correct way to do pit exit for Jordan Ross. I think it's basically half the car needs to be on the correct side as you exit the pit lane. So if you get 3/4 of the car over it, like we saw for some of the others, then you're going to get a penalty for cutting the pit exit. But Jordan Ross has it measured pretty well, perfectly. So now he's 10 seconds ahead of Scott Gamble, but with 6 seconds less fuel on board in this middle stint. Could get interesting for Jordan Ross. Here's Gamble. And we're going to get a few others stopping soon. Michael Stewart, Troy Stonestreet, Christopher Burridge, but critically not Sean McNamara or Dean Logsdale just yet. And this is the on-track versus pit stop comparison. Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble, who were first and second before they pitted.
So by those numbers, advantage Ross, because he's picked up a little bit more time versus the fuel deficit he owes Gamble. Just by coming in, well, pardon me, sorry, no, Jordan Ross went longer than Scott Gamble. Scott was the first of our leaders to duck in, so that's an important thing to note, that it would appear either low fuel, track condition, or a combination of both, really doing Scott wonders there tonight. Pardon me, Jordan. Scott's not in a bad place, but still got some work to do now.
Sean McNamara, after 17 laps, pits from the race lead. Dean Logsdale will follow him, and I think almost everyone will follow him. The question will be if anyone doesn't now, at this point, by the looks of things. So here's how long the pit lane is here. We're watching Scott Gamble basically just ending the first sector of the lap while we're talking about Sean McNamara pitting. But by the time McNamara has taken his service and exits the pit lane, he's going to be blending pretty close to Scott Gamble. It's 2/3 of a lap that it takes to get in and get your pit stop and get out here. There's McNamara heading for about 30 seconds of fuel as well. Quite a long fill for McNamara. And Logsdale and everyone else has made their first of 2 compulsory pit stops at Long Beach.
33.9 seconds. that is almost a complete refill of a tank, give or take maybe a litre or two, saying at this point in the race. So Sean, he's given himself the option to go well into the mid-40s, I'd say, on a lap count here. Try and trim the final stop to as short as you can with this strategy he's deploying relative to our top two.
I'd say a lot of our RaceKraft V8 Vets drivers are doing well in their mid-40s.
Yes, well, you do have to hit that threshold to even be permitted to enter, so you know that would sort of define things pretty clearly there indeed.
So interesting for me, and I wonder if we can wind the replay machine back a long, long way, because Mark Poynton, this is who I wanted to talk about. He's taken one compulsory pit stop, and he is plus 20 positions in this race. So he's gained quite a few positions in the early laps, and then taken quite a short stop. He is super prioritizing a bit of track position around Long Beach right now. He's got Michael Stewart right behind him. Stewart with significantly fresher tyres. Poynton pitted end of lap 4. And Stewart will get down the inside, most of the way down the inside, and approaching the fountain will surely just slam that door in his face. John Latham, the next car now to try to muscle over Poynton, but either Poynton or Lobb on lap 1. I didn't catch what happened for them, but the sea must have opened.
Well, we can ride, if we want, pretty much the opening lap with Darren Lobb if we so choose, or Mark Poynton, either really pick up poison. If I'll find us sort of maybe one of
turns 1 to 5, I think, would do it for Lobb, because even by halfway around the lap, it was like, wait, how has he gained 15 positions?
Well, the good thing is the replay machine doesn't particularly care for how far back you go. It's usually fairly okay with that. So on that note, let's have a look at Darren Lobb's opening lap. At least, as you said, the first couple of corners, Darren's opening lap.
So one of just a few drivers with no qualifying time. Short gear ratios around here, perhaps. So he's starting from second, and well, that works out pretty well for him initially. Got Matt Brunt there, so we're already up 2 spots and we haven't crossed the start-finish line yet. And then we go the long way around the outside here. Okay, 3, 4, oh! Wow! That's fair. Just the lane opened up for him.
I was going to say, it's risky, but at the same time there, they let him have the space.
And there was the nose-to-tail car park. He goes the long way round the fountain on the opening lap. So by the time we approach turn 3, you can easily see where Darren Lobb's picked up 10 positions on that opening lap. He's just gone, well, there's 40 cars trying to funnel down a narrow street circuit. I am going to go where everyone else isn't. And yeah, he's told Google Maps, I'll have the fastest time, not the shortest distance, thank you.
Very apt indeed, and that was Mark Poynton just in front of him by a couple of cars. So there you are, turn 8, that's how he got there.
So Mark Poynton's tyres are beginning to hurt just a little bit. You saw Michael Stewart get by and go by. John Latham's taken 2 laps to figure it out and get a really good run off the hairpin challenge into turn 1 and move ahead of Poynton. And we're seeing an advantage to the fresh tyres. The new fastest lap of the race has gone to Sean McNamara, who had one of the longest stops, the heaviest car of anyone, but by running really long, putting on that new set of tyres as the track conditions are very nice, McNamara has the fastest lap of the race, a lot of fuel in his back pocket, and just approaching Paul Young for 3rd position as well. So if that pace from McNamara can convert into a pass for position, which it can. So McNamara up into third, 34 seconds of fuel. I guess the comparison McNamara to Jordan Ross is interesting because there's sort of 10 seconds difference of pit stop time, and McNamara is closing up to only 14 seconds behind the race leader. So he's working perhaps, well, now making the pass on that last lap cost him a little bit of time, but still sitting in a good position, perhaps on strategy ahead of Scott Gamble. And it gives McNamara so many options.
Yeah, a couple of seconds short, but that's not much in this whole scheme. Yeah, we'll just look to see if a couple of laps clean might help him critically there. Scott Gamble only a couple of seconds up the road. And that's going to make the comparison there. About 4 seconds, and he's inside of that, so I'd expect McNamara from here to be able to leapfrog Gamble at the very least. In a second round of stops, should they all be to plan.
Pretty ferocious battle happening in the midfield right now. So Wayne Walker, who served a drive-through but qualified third, is running 22nd at the moment, trying to work his way through. Luke Allman just picked off some spots from, I think it was David Kirby and Jim Caparonis. And then you've also got this friction back and forth between some quick cars that took long pit stops and some cars that were behind them that had jumped them on track but are going to need a longer pit stop later. So that all sort of intermeshes and interleaves in the midfield, and see some cars that should have some pace to try to make some moves.
Further down the order here, David. There's plenty of battles to keep an eye on here tonight. Manny Mascord, Wayne Walker, Michael Wading make a 3-car battle for the last spot in the top 20. No, make that 2-car battle for the last spot in the 20 because Mascord's rolling out of it with no penalty clear. So, okay then.
Wayne Walker's obviously very quick, but deep in the field after the careless error exiting pit lane at his first stop. And see why Matty Mascord might think, not quite my battle. As for letting Michael Whiting through, I don't have a good explanation for that. There's Wayne Walker's view on board. You do need a bit of steering lock to get around. Next car up the road's a battle between Jeff Thomas and Darren Lobb. So Darren Lobb, who started so deep in the field and then had a spin and is still up 20 positions, versus Jeff Thomas, who had a drive-through penalty after qualifying 8th. So these two have come from opposite ends of the field to meet each other here in a battle for 18th and 19th. Last lap, Darren Lobb was half a second quicker. You just saw Jeff Thomas get quite oversteery exiting the hairpin. Of course, so easily done, the minimum speed there, and then you need to fire down the front straight, the fastest part of the racetrack. So from the slowest corner to the longest straight.
Some light traffic communication happening further up the road for Jordan Ross. I think it looks like Ben Morris was on the radio saying, "No need to worry about how to get around me. When do you get to me? I'll make it really obvious and really easy for you there." So, really clean and straightforward communication.
This is a problem I think Jordan Ross has given himself with that quick first stop, though, is there's heaps and heaps of drivers that instead of taking 24 seconds of fuel have taken 30 and more, and then there are a couple of penalties, and there are a lot of cars that are going to become lap traffic for him quite early on. Ken Latta from 24th on the grid is 12th at the moment, so he's made a relatively early stop on lap 9. Could have gone all the way to lap 17, but on lap 9 probably found himself in quite a bit of traffic and thought maybe I can get some clean air, and he might have gotten himself 5 or 6 laps of clean air to sort of effectively undercut a whole heap of drivers. It's put him ahead of Ray Smith and Wayne Sanderson and Travis Hunt.
The margin here pretty comfortably back to Ray Smith now. It was more on a second, but as this lap's gone on, they're all compressing in behind Smith is Wayne Sanderson and Travis Hunt. So there's pressure for Latta to worry about from behind.
Where has Wayne Walker got a slowdown penalty? Must be cutting the curb somewhere. There are just a very, very few places around here that that's possible. So either turn 5 or maybe coming into the hairpin. But even then, like here, I thought the rules were pretty generous as how much you could take. The only other place I can think of is left-hander heading into the hairpin. So basically, I think all of that curb is in play there. The right-hander. Thought almost all of it was in play there. Maybe, yeah, you could be called as cutting that last little bit. Doesn't really seem to have hurt him. Michael Stewart's had a rough last lap, so lost a fair bit of time. He's got Mark Poynton just behind him. Got John Latham ahead of him. Now everyone inside of the top 10 beginning to catch some of that same traffic that was signalling to Jordan Ross, or that Jordan Ross may have passed a couple of laps ago.
Oh!
Is that no front bumper for Michael Stewart? It is no front bumper for Michael Stewart.
And I think I found a potential point of calls. I just don't know why. Lap 26, the replay machine is going to rewind to here, David. Try and understand what's going on. couple of drivers all going slow. John Gallen, Michael Stewart, Stewie Hall, all at the same time back on lap 26.
Well, this looks like Stewart's probably just going to get hot into one and cause a bit of a car park. So he does lock up, understeer, bounce off the wall at one.
And there it is.
But Latham's still behind him, so he...
It's going to do its thing, I think, where it just takes forever for it to decide to actually pop off the car. Nope. Stuart Hall fraction wide, a couple of corners late. Yeah, so it looks like one car moment. Otherwise, alive and okay. Back live will go because he's under assault now from Mark Poynton. And Andrew Rushworth's right there as well.
Yeah, it must be hurting Michael Stewart because Latham's gotten past him and gone by. Poynton not able to make that happen. So Andrew Rushworth actually passes Mark Poynton. Poynton's in this weird spot here where he stopped lap 4 and he's all around drivers who stopped lap 12 and 13. So Troy Stone Street, Justin McLean just in behind this group as well, exiting off turn 1. So Stewart, no front bumper. Andrew Rushworth, Mark Poynton, Justin McLean, Troy Stone Street. Justin McLean's well placed in this, 32 seconds of fuel, and he's part of this top 10 group. He runs in 10th at the moment. Stewart just gives the turn 1 exit wall another little tap. I think Rushworth will be settling into certainly got a great run onto Seaside Way a lap ago to pass Poynton, so might look to do the same again on Michael Stewart. And I think he will. It looked tidier, it looked like a later apex, and it looked smoother. So at the end of Seaside Way, he'll go down the inside Rushworth into 7th.
And all this fighting, or whether it has just been a case of Michael's pace being that a little bit off, but not really finding it, has really backed. Look at this, all the way back now to Ken Latta. With realistic, it was a battle of 3. It's effectively stretching towards a battle of 6. In the background, Stone Street having a look at Justin McLean. No, ducks back in line at turn 1.
So Mark Poynton can still hold his head high in this one, but he's headed for a much longer second stop. Justin McLean's headed for the shortest and has a pretty tidy looking car in there. This is where second and third changed places. Scott Gamble with a slowdown penalty. So it must have been 2 corners earlier. It must have been...
Oh, I think I know where...
5.
I think I know where it is. Yeah. Let's have a look at this here. Yeah, that's aggressive.
Yep. So Scott Gamble cuts the wrong side of the curb, gets himself a slowdown penalty, has to get out of the way of Sean McNamara, who goes up
and
in
Wayne
second
Walker's
place.
got one too. I reckon he's done exactly the same thing.
Wayne
Here
Walker's
he is
had a
right
couple.
now. And he clears
Suddenly
it just
these are-
now. So there you have it. Sorry, I think I cut you off there, but to say that, yeah, in all of this racing, just the way that we're tripping up over track limits a little bit here tonight, it would seem, which is kind of funny because it's a street circuit. There's walls right there, but there's just a couple of spots, David, where they give you a little bit, and when they give you the inch, you have to be careful not to take the mile.
Yeah, so, I mean, so trying to work it out in my head, I was thinking there's only 2 places it could possibly happen here because everywhere else, the track limit is where they've placed the concrete wall. We've just crossed the critical lap number, and you're seeing a bunch of drivers leap into pit lane. So Chad Lewis, John Gallen, Damien Cairns are all thinking, I'm going to get my pit stop done now. And if there's some safety car, something else, whatever, or I just think there's a good tyre undercut to be had, that's what I'm going to go for. Now, Camaro front bumpers might be running out of stock soon. David Kirby is missing one. We've seen a few others go missing at points. Stacey Boyd is just behind Kirby at the moment, but last lap their lap times were equal.
There's another one of our drivers who's providing us with a camera here tonight. Let's see, is there a move that could be on at turn number 1? But you can hear how gently they're bringing the power on in the Phase 4 770 Camaro, just to get it straight and on the power, and then use all the roads and not put a lot of steering lock in. They're not there this time at turn 1, David.
Bit too much curb from Kirby, who then went a little wide in one. Stacey Boyd's line just a little more precise in places. And this is where they need to be just a little careful. So Chris Miller's the highest... No. Chad Lewis is the highest running driver to have made 2 compulsory pit stops, by the looks of things. 32nd at the moment, 21 seconds the last stop. So he went 17 laps in the first stint. Maybe didn't think that worked out well, so now he's gone undercut after just 14 laps in the middle stint. He's going to give himself 30-something laps to get home, so interesting way to slice it up from Chad Lewis. Got a little bit of clear track in front of him. And then the 2 that you see in front are not on the same lap as him as well. Pretty sure.
Indeed, no, that's Scott Gamble and Sean McNamara, who is still nose to tail and falling away from Jordan Ross in the race lead.
So maybe they sort of part the seas a little bit for Chad Lewis in this stint, and you can watch what 2nd and 3rd are doing. Bit of a boat into one.
Poynton hits the pit lane as well from that top 10 battle.
Yeah, from 11th, going to take his 2nd stop. Suddenly seeing heaps more of these slowdown penalties. David Kirby had one, Jeff Thomas had one, and then a few other drivers are coming in, so to clear their 2nd stops.
Is it me or is he
Jordan Ross from the race lead.
Okay. Shortest stop of the top 3, mind you. So this is probably about right, I reckon, for Jay Ross. Although again,
he's 20 laps done in the middle stint, so he's going to need to take on fuel to get 28 home. Something about the, I think, slow speed corners, curb hopping and traction zones here is that the weight of the fuel doesn't seem to be hurting the lap time so much. New tyres are really valuable in the braking zones and in the traction zones. So I think you're correct. Chad Lewis does look like he's closing up second and third place a little bit here. Net second and third place. I've seen that a few times. I think the tyre undercut is strong. At tracks with really high speed corners, I think in the lateral cornering, the weight of fuel hurts you, but it's just all about grip from the rear tyres out of slow and tight and somewhat ponderous corners. So for Jordan Ross, "31 seconds. He'll never be free of traffic either, but eventually, as everyone else makes their second stops, it should part a little bit in front of him. He's got Michael Whiting and Matty Mascord, who've both only taken one stop. That's the battle in front of him right now. And they'll see Jordan Ross behind them, but right now they owe him nothing. Oh my goodness, another front bumper.
Yep, they are going dime a dozen, it seems, around here tonight. So if you were a virtual spectator at Long Beach, I think you'd be on for some pretty good odds. And looks like Travis Hunt is going to take that straight to the pit lane to try and get that fixed up without too much time loss. Thankfully, he can make it home without too many issues from here, but we're not quite at the 2/3 mark.
Long middle stint from Travis Hunt, who pitted after just 9 laps and has run 27 laps in this middle stint with 27 to go. So that's how he's done it. Mascord continuing to do his thing, or he just doesn't want to tangle with anyone too much on the street circuit. So he lets Jordan Ross through. Michael Whiting has been around these drivers and these cars in this championship and split one just a little bit longer. But he, likewise, is going to make this very easy for Jordan Ross, or a lot easier for Jordan Ross than it could have been. Scott Gamble is going to stop. Sean McNamara will carry on in the race lead for the moment. Michael Stewart and Troy Stonestreet also making stops. Battle between Whiting and Mascord back on after Jordan Ross has cut and cleared his way through. So where does Gamble blend relative to Jordan Ross? Probably a little bit further back, but it should have closed up with these second stops. Not enough for Gamble, unfortunately.
The biggest problem, I think, for Gamble was just the fact the gap blew out from 10 seconds towards 15 or 16 when he pitted. So, sure, the final stop was about 6 seconds shorter, but the gap on track, as he's now sort of back into racing speeds here through the fountain, has barely moved from where it was pre-stop.
Could still bode well for Sean McNamara. Remembering he had a monstrous first stop and then caught and passed Gamble. Hasn't quite had the clean air pace to match Jordan Ross, but ought to be a little bit closer. 25 laps to go, still more second pit stops happening. Wayne Sanderson, Dean Logsdale, John Latham, some other drivers that were contending for the top 10 at Long Beach.
Looking for some battles up and down the order. One that's, well, owes us pit stops. There's Chris Burridge versus Darren Lobb, but it's not really going to look like much of a contest because immediately inside goes Lobb at turn 9. Gentle on the way in. Doesn't get the job done, so you're going to have to get this completed at the hairpin. And yeah, he goes a bit deep.
Oh, marbles.
Burridge goes deeper.
Burridge just so much understeer on the marbles when he got that far out wide. A few drivers were using part of that line in qualifying, but by the time we're this deep into the race, it's basically unworkable. As Chris Burridge discovered. That pit stop's still ongoing for Travis Hunt.
Okay, so
not great. A few other drivers stopping now.
Fast repair already used, perhaps. Fuel and tyres already done, unless this might be park it up and call it a race. Kind of a night for him here.
Pit stop number 3. So I think he's gone out and come back in again. Sean McNamara pits. Ought to come back out in second place, but how close he is to Jordan Ross could be important. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. We've been safety car free the whole time, but if we did get one from here on out, having fresher tyres on the restart could be a significant advantage. That's something that McNamara might have in this second stint, having run longer and be able to cut back a little bit towards Jordan Ross. John Latham, Ken Latta and Troy Stonestreet have all made second stops. There's them here, 15th, 16th and 17th. That'll move up with all the other drivers making their stops right now that you can see right-hand side of screen. Like Darren Lobb, maybe they'll get ahead of him. They'll probably move ahead of Christopher Burridge and Matty Mascord. Justin McLean was sort of 10th with a strategy advantage. He's just coming back out into the race. Here's Sean McNamara back on track. 9 seconds behind Jordan Ross, but ahead of Scott Gamble. So effectively it's Ross 1, McNamara 2, Gamble 3. McNamara with a bit of traffic just here.
Yeah, not ideal spot to come out comparatively, it seems, but at the same time.
Oh, Latham's in the wall big. Battling with Ken Latta at turn 4. That car is in a world of hurt. It can't really make right turns for John Latham, and it is a rolling roadblock as well. Turn 4, he was going side by side. Latta was on the inside, and Latham has ended up making heavy contact with the wall. And he's losing big spots. He was challenging inside of the top 10. They're all challenging inside of the top 10. And John Latham's one of the few cars we've seen with a genuine, actual, mechanical black flag, the meatball, the black flag with the orange disc. He has to pit. And it is big damage. So this is it. Oh, McLean on the exit blends right alongside John Latham. They're side by side through the fountain here. Latham loses out. And then also trying to go into that gap goes Ken Latta. Ooh. I think... Well, I have a few thoughts. And I know how Latta will see it, and I know how John Latham will see it. Latta's there the whole way. There's very little in the way of contact between them.
Marbles are there too. To me, it's a question of, was Latta ever making that corner and leaving space for Latham should they have both got out the other side? And that particular overhead angle doesn't particularly suggest so to me. But the marbles definitely seem to have condemned John before the space being left or not, I think really came into as a matter of fact.
So there's John Latham on the lane. Going to need to try to get that car fixed. Andrew Rushworth is also on the pit lane, and that sent Jordan Ross back through into the lead. We're getting basically the second stop from almost everyone, so getting the true order. Again, Jordan Ross from Sean McNamara, from Scott Gamble, from Dean Logsdale and Paul Young, 4th and 5th. Now there's smoke in the air as they go through turn 5. That's, from Young's teammate. Is that Stacey Boyd? Oh, there goes another front bumper. No, rear bumper.
The front's threatening to come off, but it's hanging on by a couple of clips. Speaking of a car, it's revived itself. Travis Hunt's taken a while to get the front clip reinstalled, but he's back out there now. In fact, he's going to take this position as there goes the front.
Hey.
All right, that's a bumperless Camaro front and rear now. It almost looks like what I'd see from like a drift. Why does the rear feel drift car-esque?
Yeah, there's something to it, but for poor Stacey Boyd, it's not a happy story.
Oh, insultly due for Travis Hunt. He's back out on track with a fixed car. Got himself a black flag on pit exit, I believe.
4th trip to the lane from Travis Hunt, but for Stacey Boyd, trying to stay out of the way of the traffic. Okay. Then is he battling Chris Miller?
I don't.
Let's Ross through and then Miller.
Yeah, I think so.
Goes to have a look.
I think this was for position. So as you said, yeah. No, so annoyingly, yeah, so 29 and 30 on the digital windscreen displays. That's only the positions at the start of the lap, but it's good enough to say that, yes, that ended up being for position after Boyd was trying to let your race leader through.
It's a tough round that side of track. Chris Miller's already been given a drive-through penalty once in this race, and we saw Justin McLean's pit exit around Ken Latter led to a little bit of excitement. Well, this is where it's ended up. Andrew Rushworth just behind him in 7th. Rushworth, another driver that's been promoted to Split 1 this new season. So previously part of V8 Vets, but now being given a slot in the top split alongside Jim Caparonis. Ricky Hyde we haven't seen today. Sean Vandermeulen and Ray Smith, Matt Muggleton, also other promotions. And they're battling in the top 10, but oh no, Matt Muggleton. Well, that's more than a front bumper. That's suspension in the front left. No good at all. Actually reminiscent, I guess, of the damage that John Latham had.
And, catches the bump on the exit of turn 7. Oh, that's a cruel one.
So there is a change of direction right as you come over the crest, and Matt Muggleton has got it exactly. For the Latham Latter incident, Ken Latter gets a black flag. Matt Muggleton's done that all by himself, though. So running 8th. Ken Latter has a drive-through penalty to serve. There's 2 Phase 4 cars stopped at the hairpin. Paul Young, go to the static camera at the hairpin. Because it's a Phase 4 car park. Wow. So Paul Young is still 5th, but he came to a stop in the hairpin here. So Stacey Boyd's at least a lap and some down. He's trying to stay out of the way.
Oh no. Oh no! I switched,
but may have been unsuccessful.
Yeah, we're going to go back on that. This is unfortunate. So Ben Morris has stepped aside and then careened into the side. And then, as Paul tries to get out of the way, it parks up both Christian Smart and Greg Sharp. And then Stacey Boyd, around the outside, ends up in a spot where he can't get the car around the hairpin.
So did 3 Phase 4 motorsport cars come to a complete stop in the hairpin?
2 of them for one crash, and then a third by themselves, but yes.
So is this another case of Ben Morris is trying to let Paul Young
Go
through? Someone he's battling tries to step into that gap, and then in trying to outbrake the fishy car, he's gone and turned his teammate around.
Let's try it again. So, yep, Christian Smart, 29th, 30th at the end of the start of the lap that they were on. So, yep, 100%. Ben Morris is fighting Christian Smart, and he wipes out his own teammate in the process. Paul Young, luckily, seems to drive away mostly okay. And Ben Morris still ends up losing out to both Christian Smart and Greg Sharp for positions in the battle of the high 20s and low 30s. Oh dear.
Front bumper alarm. I cannot tell you what would go down in my team chat if I was running 5th and one of my teammates hit me from behind from a lap down. I don't know how other teams would work that out, but there would be
serious questions.
I reckon you'd be changing their name in the team, you'd be changing their profile picture in the team, and you wouldn't let them forget about it for quite a long time.
A bit like Dan Hall's paint a couple of weeks back.
Oh yeah, it'd be that and the works. It'd be all loaded. You would not let them forget about that. Paul Young, I think, is so lucky to still be running 5th in this race after being hit and spun by his teammate who let him by and then outbraked him. This is some of the other battles that are happening with all pit stops now completed. Justin McLean ahead of Andrew Rushworth, Chad Lewis ahead of Mark Point, and Wayne Walker in 11th has served a drive-through penalty. Michael Stewart in 12th. Darren Lobb is plus 26 positions, and then he spun and lost 10 of them and has come back for him once more. He's 13th here. Christopher Burridge in 14th. Jeff Thomas, who's also served a drive-through penalty, is 15th. Don't need to look too far back to Ray Smith, Wayne Sanderson, and Michael Whiting either.
Train is building once again. Right here on the fringes of the top 10.
Oh, bumper alert. There's a good look out of the hairpin. Jeff Thomas trying to get a perfect exit versus Christopher Burridge. Jeff Thomas's tyres are quite a bit older though. 14 laps old now for Thomas. 8 laps old for Burridge. 8 laps old for Darren Lobb. Gotta hold on with these slightly older tyres. It's a view towards downtown Long Beach, the pedestrian overpass that mimics, there used to be sort of like a seaside fair with a roller coaster in this area. Now the pedestrian bridge resembles it.
Oh, Jeff, no.
Clip the concrete on the apex. How much damage has he done to the car? I think it's
Actually,
wobbling a little bit.
It's visually gotten away with it. But yeah, that doesn't look like it's particularly turning right so well.
It's Chris Miller with another black flag. Damian Cairns, 26th, with a meatball. Has he gone too hot into turn 1? Oh, yeah, that is big damage for Damien Cairns on the right front. So I think he's gone too much speed into turn 1 and got the outside wall on this lap. He's not happy with it. You wouldn't be this late in the race.
Struggling to make left-hand turns. It's just think he's okay to turn right because the left front tyre will get him around. Yeah, okay, so the hairpin shouldn't be too much of an issue for him in that case. Indeed, let us rewind to pick up where this has gone wrong. Mr. Cairns, and turn 1 does look like the prime suspect indeed.
Yep. Too much speed, no runoff there. Once you realise you're in trouble, then you kind of just lock the tyre and run on straight almost. And it's done big damage. Did someone say front bumper missing? For Cairns, and then he doesn't realise the full extent of it as he goes through the fountain as well, just trying to stay out of everyone's way best he can. And he has done a pretty good job of it. Chris Miller also comes in a lane to serve the penalty. And now battling for the top 10, Wayne Walker versus Mark Poynton. They pitted on the same lap. 15 laps on these tyres, the both of them, just behind Chad Lewis.
Ooh, down the back of the group. Sparrow just a moment off the hairpin, and he's going to get absolutely swallowed up back to 16th. It's at least... only 2 spots lost. Not as much as I thought. Here comes the next one from Wayne Sanderson to his inside. Get it pulled up, Chris. Just.
The marbles are something for real in this 200-kilometre race. So now we're past 50 laps. And they are building up everywhere offline. So through 1, through 5 here. We saw it in the hairpin. It's getting ridiculous there as well.
Yeah, it does really feel like, despite the fact these cars did get a bit of a tweak in the first season they were run by iRacing to reduce the amount of marbles they would generate, but over the course of a race, is that just a slow-moving Stacey Boyd to let the... Yes, it is a slow Stacey Boyd. It's just to let the lead car through. Still hasn't returned to the pits to fix that one, apparently. Back on the point I was making. The car's got a tweak to reduce the marble creation amount, but even then, it's like we're running the Dunlop Super Soft.
For Stacey Boyd, there's no more bumpers to fall off. You remember Haas kept getting black flagged for wing end plates were half off, while other teams where the end plate would just straight fall off never got penalised for the fact that their end plates were so weak. So that's what that reminds me of. There's no mechanical black flag for Stacey Boyd because there's no front or rear bumper that could fall off anymore.
I suppose yes. If you don't put them back on, you can't rip them off later on. Maybe that is the secret to racing around Longbeach. Indeed. I have to keep that in mind. Slow down somewhere on circuit for Justin McLean. Just cleared it as I cut to him. So I guess that's happened. Can't have happened at turn 5, but too long. Too much of the lap surely before you could get that cleared out. So that's happened at turn 3 Indy left, I would presume. I wish I could say it with confidence, but I can't.
I think as you go left before the hairpin, you can get over too much of the curb there. Just a tiny bit. Is that Darren Lobb's music? He's closing in on the battle for the top 10 here. Last lap, more than half a second quicker than Chad Lewis, Wayne Walker and Mark Poynton, and he's clambering all over Mark Poynton right now. Darren Lobb started. I'm adding 2-digit numbers in my head, so it might take a while. 39th on the grid. And now Runs 12th. Looking at the top 10, Wayne Walker down the inside on Chad Lewis. Lewis had been perhaps just a tiny bit the cork in the bottle of this group, backing up Walker and Poynton and having Darren Lobb close them both in. Lobb's placed himself perfectly onto Seaside Way to also look to make some moves. He has a peek. Poynton has a peek. They both come back to the racing line for the right-hander. Hey, maybe it's that right-hander there. I think you could probably cap too much of that.
Quite
I was thinking it'd be there in the left.
Whoa.
Darren Lobb wants all over that curb, but it doesn't quite work out for him. There's no space opening this lap.
Got awfully close there to getting a bit personal with Mark Poynton's rear bumper. But alas, has kept it intact. Further on, just behind, change for the next position on the road. Jeff Thomas is through on the slightly wounded Michael Stewart, so up to 13th for him. As that's Christian Smart in an awkward spot. That's also front bumperless, right.
And also looks like it doesn't want to turn right. Perhaps.
Look here, Christian zoom feeds provided us with for this week. Definitely looks like a fair bit of steering input. And now, multiple battle packs coming. So yeah, they're over about 90 degrees to the right. I think it was about the same to the left as in behind. Battling is alive and well.
If you watch Christian Smart's head, you could see him look at the mirrors down Seaside Way. How far back, or at his relative box, how far back are those other guys? And it's a group for sure. Ray Smith, Wayne Sanderson, Michael Whiting, Christopher Burridge, Matty Mascord that are just in behind Christian Smart, just entering the hairpin right now. Nine laps to go. Crossing the start-finish line for this group.
This looks to be where all the battling is at. Unfortunately, if we go beyond this exact group of cars, it would appear everyone's had to fan out. We've only got 21 cars still circulating on the lead lap of this race too. Everyone beyond that
40 started.
And of them, 35 are still running. But everyone from David Nash in 22nd to Darren Goosey in 31st is a lap down. Steve Kennedy circulating 2 laps down. Apparently Travis Hunt's circulating at 5 laps down to get classification points. I mean, at this point, you could theoretically park it and then just come back out to take the checker. John Latham as well. All the action in the teens here at this point, it seems.
Ray Smith's not far from catching Christian Smart here, which could be a problem for him. Because Wayne Sanderson, very close, looks a bit aggressive. Last lap, Michael Whiting dropped a tiny bit of time, so Burridge got closer to him. Burridge also been up and down, seen a lap or two that he lost some time, but now comes back towards the group.
Oh, what's a car down the access road? Who? John Latham, unfortunately, touring the runoff at turn 10. Or 9, sorry.
battle for the top 10. Darren Lobb's gone past Mark Poynton to 11th. Now going to try to hunt Chad Lewis. Wayne Walker got through and cleared out as well. Darren Lobb ran a really long middle stint compared to these guys as well, so he does have fresher tyres than Chad Lewis and Mark Poynton. Towards turn 1, Darren Lobb not looking as close as I thought he might look to close in. I'm not sure he nailed turn 1 that time either. Looked like a little bit of understeer. Didn't rotate how he wanted. Didn't quite catch Chad Lewis. And then also there at 4. Cuts a whole heap of 5. That's all good though. For the lead of the race, Sean McNamara is not going to let Jordan Ross cruise this one home. Just 5 seconds between them. Getting tyres just a little bit pressure for McNamara. Jordan Ross, of course, dealing with all of the lap traffic. As we said, about half of the field has gone a lap down. And then there's cars that are then going to go a second lap down in some places, depending on how much damage or penalties or other things they've got going on. So Jordan Ross, he looks forward on any of these straights and sees a lot of traffic, not wide open spaces and smooth sailing. Lap down car between Ross and McNamara is David Nash in 22nd. There's the last couple of laps. It's not moving a whole lot, but what it means for Jordan Ross is he can't coast this one home, and he's catching some serious battles, looking to put Luke Allman versus Ken Latta a lap down, and some others. There's McNamara running in second.
Quite the face of calm and composure for Sean, but we're going to have to come back to him a little bit because this is starting to heat up on the final top 10 position. Darren Lobb's going to give the bumper of Chad Lewis a friendly hello. And you have to do the outside of turn 10 to make the move stick. But this becomes the inside of the double apex of Indy left, and that should be job done there. Looks to be so indeed by the hairpin.
Closes Mark Poynton and Jeff Thomas back in on this group behind Chad Lewis as well. So everything gets close in the final couple of laps. Darren Lobb into the top 10 from the final row, the last row of the grid in this 40-car race. Took him a bit of effort, but he's up into 10th now. Chad Lewis last lap 124. The tyres are beginning to move around a little bit, and you saw him need to be defensive coming onto Seaside Way. That's where Darren Lobb finally got him. I don't think Lewis is doing great in the traction zones.
Does appear to be struggling a bit. Yeah, he's just... Well, Lobb's checking out, so that appears to be 10th place fairly well settled. There's boost for Poynton off of turn 8, and actually gives there was some breathing room. Thomas not close enough to really truly pressure either. Now, second battle pack. It's now really 3 cars here behind Ray Smith for 15th or 15th. And Sanderson Whiting. Burridge is there, but not really. 8/10 back, you can see leaves a couple of car lengths to worry about. And Michael Stewart's got a lapped car, Ben Morris, between him and Ray Smith as a bit of buffer too.
This group are all a minute behind the leader. Michael Stewart's got a lapped car just in front here. It's maybe hurt him a little bit. Let Ray Smith get closer. Jordan Ross crosses the start-finish line. 2 laps to go, bringing 200 kilometres from Long Beach closer towards a conclusion for round 3, season 24 of RaceKraft V8 Veterans. Ben Morris, I think, not sure what to do with this group behind him. Pulled off the racing line. Still saw about a second to Michael Stewart and went, well, I'll just hold this here, and maybe on the front straight he'll have to really wait for a whole freight train to go by. 2 laps to go for this group of drivers now. Michael Stewart shaking it off a little bit, getting just a couple more car lengths clear of Ray Smith and that battling group. Inside the top 10, Wayne Walker's charge back to the front continues. First run through the pit lane for Wayne Walker. He cut the pit exit blend line, had to serve a drive-through penalty at a pretty costly time. And since then, it's just slowly worked his way back towards the top 10, and now he's working his way towards 8th position. Your race leader has started the final lap. When these drivers come around across the start-finish line, it'll be 1 lap left for Troy Stone Street and Wayne Walker as well.
Yeah, just a hair over 3 kilometres in a lap around this Long Beach Street circuit. So for these guys, tack on a few hundred more metres to that to boot. But it feels like it's appropriate. We should check in with the rest, because here is already onto the backstretch down Seaside Way. And only therefore
just monitoring the traffic as well, heading towards the final sector here for him. Doesn't need to get tangled with any of that, with a 5-second lead over Sean McNamara. Jordan Ross took a slightly unconventional strategy. Pretty short first stop. Left him exposed if there was going to be a mid-race safety car versus Sean McNamara and Scott Gamble. But out of the slow final hairpin, he can really light it up. 63 laps of Long Beach, and Jordan Ross takes another win. The reigning champion does it again at Long Beach.
Said McNamara keeps him honest. Just a shy of 5 seconds behind in second. Scott Gamble, nearly another 10 seconds back before we get to him. And then Dean Logsdale, after a week out, returns to the field and picks himself up a top 4 finish. Paul Young to rank your top 5 despite the dramas between the Phase 4 cars. First battle that we can cut to here at the end of the race. It's on for 8th. Walker looks as close as he's ever been, David, but he's got only one real chance left to do it.
I think he's got no real opportunities left to do it. He's not that crazy to try to move down the inside there. Stone Street will just manage to hold on. Thought Walker got a good run out of the hairpin a lap ago. But is he out of fuel? Actually drops quite a bit there. Darren Lobb gets into the top 10 from the back row of the grid. There's a whole train of cars now exiting the hairpin. Michael Stewart and Ray Smith and Wayne Sanderson. Ken Latter's going to get 20th by the looks of things, unfortunately. There he is, only just ahead of Luke Allman. I wonder if Latter almost ran out of fuel there. There's a few interesting final laps. actually. Walker losing time on the last lap. Latter and Allman both losing quite a bit of time on the last lap. Going green flag for 200 kilometres at Long Beach was not on anyone's bingo card, I don't think, and it might have stretched the fuel runs for quite a few drivers.
I think it did indeed. It was pushing the limits in some respects, it seems. But with that said and done, the race results can now be reviewed here, and have a look at how everything showed up. I don't think we had any penalties to worry about that got applied by iRacing post-race. So as we saw them come across the line, is how they will look here on our screensaver.
Jordan Ross, the winner, pacing it home at the end, 4.6 seconds ahead of Sean McNamara, who overtook Scott Gamble and then put a bit of time into him. That's your podium. McNamara looking very, very strong. Gamble still scoring on the podium. Dean Logsdale in fourth ahead of Paul Young, who gets fifth, despite being hit by his teammate. And then Justin McLean in sixth, ran a very good strategy to gain 6 positions from 12th on the grid. Andrew Rushworth in 7th, Troy Stone Street in 8th. Wayne Walker with a drive-through penalty still finished 9th. Darren Lobb, biggest mover of the race, in 10th. Chad Lewis in 11th, a minute behind the lead. A lot of field spread at this difficult Long Beach street circuit, a lot of traffic, a lot of jeopardy. Mark Poynton in 12th, Jeff Thomas, Michael Stewart, Ray Smith, Wayne Sanderson, Michael Whiting. This group all coming home together in a hurry with Christopher Burridge and Matty Mascord. Then Ken Latter finishing 20th, just ahead of Luke Orman. Last cars on the lead lap. David Nash was for a bit in between first and second in that final stint. So he ended up 1 lap down, leader of the cars in that group in 22nd. John Gallen in 23rd, Dino Dino in 24th, Gary Buckland 25th, Greg Sharp, Matt Brunt, Christian Smart, and Ben Morris in 29th. Last car on the lead lap, Darren Goosey 2 laps down in 30th. And then Stacey Boyd in 31st.
I clicked
Steve
it.
Kennedy
Didn't click it apparently.
Steve Kennedy in 32nd. Then Travis Hunt had a lot of repairs to do and penalties to serve 4 times. Steve Kennedy and Travis Hunt both 4 times through the pit lane. And in a 63-lap race, 40-something laps to get you classified. I think Damien Cairns might be one of the last classified cars behind Chris Miller. I think David Kirby, Matt Muggleton, Stewie Hall, and Jim Caparonis not completing enough laps of Long Beach to be scored finishes. It's a really tough and really unforgiving track, and in so many ways we saw that with the field spread, with the penalties, with front bumpers flying everywhere, and quite a few damaged cars, but none of them at enough speed to take out a car and bring out a safety car. 63 green flag laps. It was 200 kilometers of Long Beach.
I can confirm, just doing some quick math, indeed Damien Cairns 15 laps down was the last, or the furthest back you could be tonight in terms of short of the finish to be classified. So I believe that should mean he'll count for points at the end of this.
So we've got our whole podium standing by, and we can go and pick their thoughts after that race.
You'll have to be the one to grab them for me tonight.
Scott Gamble came home third. Perhaps a race more mentally fatiguing than physically fatiguing tonight?
Hey, how you going, David and Dan? Yeah, I mean, I'm finding all the races pretty fatiguing, mate. But, it's a tough one, and it was a tough car to drive around here.
Now, we're always looking for, the excitement and the fire and the spice. So when we see ex-teammates battling it out on the podium, how do you race against Sean McNamara with all the, the experience in this championship and others you guys have together?
Well, it's interesting because there's a little bit of a background background story there, and I had a chat to Sean, and I said, mate, if any of your U95 cars keep hitting me, it's going to be war, because two of their cars, once I'd left the team, had taken me out, and I said, third time, that's it, we're on, right? So a bit of a joke, bit of a running joke and a laugh, but you know, you just drive how you can. I mean, I'm not up for the fight, mate. I mean, I had a heart attack 3 months ago. You know, that's why the cam's pointing at the TV, not me. You don't want to see me have another one on cam. So, yeah, I've got to take it pretty easy. You know, and there's the age is catching up. I'm 9 years difference between me and Jordan, 7 years between Macca. So, you know, things are not in my favour, mate. But you know, I'm just out there enjoying it. You know, we still race as hard as we can and do the best we can. And, you know, congratulations to him. Jordan's obviously, you know, he's faster anyway, but and Macca as well. So congratulations, they're driving really well.
Strategy, you pitted a little earlier than those guys. And, I mean, there's shock on my face that we had no safety car today. It felt like it should have been an inevitability, and it didn't happen. So what did that do for your decisions and how it played out?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was driving the car and you know, Sean was catching me pretty quickly leading up to the first pit stops. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on with this car. Like, I'd lost all feeling of braking, confidence under braking, and I was just bleeding time left, right, and centre. So I thought, let's go into the pit stop. I pitted like maybe 3 laps before I needed to. Have a reset, just get the feet off the pedals, get some fuel in, take a few deep breaths, and then come out. And also at the same time, I was mindful that Paul Young and also Dean Longstell, they'd pitted a little bit early, so I didn't want them to undercut me as well. I still wanted to come out in front, which we managed to do. So it sort of worked out. The second pit stop, though, that was interesting because I had to slow down, although I could afford it with Macca. I let him through, you know, because there's no point fighting. But I come around the last turn and I put the bloody thing into the wall, right? So I thought, that's it. Let's just get into pit lane. So that's how my second pit stop evolved. And, you know, I think I said to Dan, who thank you very much, Dan, for spotting for both Chad and myself tonight. But I think I said to him, what, did that just say there was 20 laps left? Like, it was so long. We could have definitely done this race 15 laps shorter, that's for sure.
Well, you finish on the podium and you do see it all the way to the end, and congratulations.
yeah, thank you. You know, it was good. It's good to be back behind the wheels, you know. I missed that season. So there's still a lot of things, you know, we've got to learn. We'll do our best we can, but, you know, well done to Jordan. I mean, he's setting the vets alight, and not only vets, you know, he's doing really well in Pro Series as well, same as Sean. He's driving extremely well. But, you know, well done to Dean and Paul. You know, so some really good efforts and a good strategy by my teammate tonight, Chad. He nearly got himself into the top 10, so he drove really, really well up 8 or so positions, I think. So congratulations to him.
Well, best wishes, Scott. We'll see you around.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Okay, Dan, how about we get you second place, Sean McNamara, and see his side of that story?
Yeah, sounds good. As I said, you'll need to grab him.
I can't grab him.
You can't grab him? Oh, that's problematic, because right now my Discord window is a grey... You got him? Fantastic. As I said, my Discord window is a grey blob tonight, so we've had some real fantastic fun in the on the production side of things tonight. But you can welcome Sean in, and once again, mate, second place here on a Thursday night, looking like a pretty good pattern for you this season. And the pace was good too. Just some point down the in this race allowed Jordan just to get out in front.
Yeah, it was just I was pretty disappointed with tonight, actually, even though it's a good P2 result. Quali was all it was, and you give away a little bit to Jordan, it's hard to get it back. So I sort of, you know, I started P5, I was up into 4 pretty quick, but you give away that 4 or 5 seconds, and he went the undercut, which just stretched it a bit for him. I went the overcut, just thinking there might be a safety car late, but yeah, look, the car was quick. I think I had the fastest lap of the race. Felt pretty good once I got in a rhythm, but yeah, just didn't put it together in quali. So well done to Jordan and Scotty as well. But yeah, it was a good night regardless.
From what I can see, yes, it looks like you will indeed be picking up our fastest lap bonus point tonight. Just over a 10th better than Jordan's best in the race session. But I mean, yeah, quali times tonight as well. Just thinking about that real quick, were quite tight amongst you guys at the top of the field. So it really was a matter of tenths, let alone hundredths even for several guys that made all the difference for spots here. Was there a particular point on the lap where it came unstuck for you, or just a couple of really small things that added up to be that tenth or so down?
Yeah, I think first sector was probably just a bit soft. It's these brakes. Once you get into a proper rhythm, they're pretty good. But jumping in a server without a lot of practice today, probably just has that little bit of mental effect into turn one, not wanting to lock a brake and throw a lap away. But a few of us, Jordan, myself, and Wayne as well, like we were all thrown down 19.9s for most of the week. It was just disappointing to do a 3, but like I said, it was still a good bounce back, move forward 3 spots, and important bonus points, and we'll keep the pressure on, and hopefully he buckles.
Certainly, I feel like there's been at least one moment where that's happened for Jordan, so it's certainly not out of the realm of impossibility should something come to pass. But 3 rounds in, 7 to go, and we head to a track that I've not yet seen V8s race at next week, with the Portland International Raceway being our next venue, and a track is somewhat recent to iRacing too, not brand spanking new like the Bend. But what do you think about that being what we'll be seeing up at next?
I'll add it to the cart after this and have a look. But look, next week it may be a bit touch and go for me to get here. But look, sort of looking at the screenshots and a couple of YouTube clips of it, it's an interesting little track. It's kind of got a bit of a street circuit feel to it in a way, very tight and twisty, and a couple of little straights. So it's going to be interesting. 45 plus cars on that track. I'm not sure what the lap times are like, but it doesn't look like an overly big lap, so it'll be pretty wild. I think it's going to be that first corner chicane thingy by the look of it. It's going to be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how it is there, and hopefully I can make it. But like I said, I'll add it to the cart and we'll have a look at it after this.
Very well. Well, from what I can recall from IndyCar and NASCAR coverage, wide front stretch, narrow sector 1, but opens up to the back stretch, and then it does narrow back up for the last couple of corners. So that's true. Could be a bit interesting. Decisive passes might be the order of the day. But congrats to you once again, Sean. Floor's all yours. Anyone you want to shout out? Well, thanks for helping you get it done here tonight.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Look, thanks to you and David and SimSpeed and the entire Vets community and admin. Absolutely love being a part of this group. Good bunch of people. Big shout out to Jordan and, of course, Scotty on P3. Good to see him back in the seat. Shout out to Sean. Last week we had Dean on his way to hospital, and he had a great run tonight, so well done to him. Just a quick shout out to Sean. He was in hospital today with a pretty badly broken wrist and hand, so he's going to be out of action for 6 weeks. But all the guys at 95 Sim Sport, of course, RaceKraft Simulations, RSW Graphics, Racing Years Custom Years Protection, and Track Tool Track Days. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. Well done once again, and we'll see what comes next week, whether it's going to be a drop round then for you, or whether you'll get a chance to get out and track then.
Fingers crossed. We'll see how we go. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
So there's the man in P2. Interesting to hear that they're happy enough with the race result, but still wishing it could have been better for him. But that leaves us with one more person to talk to, of course, our race winner here tonight. David, hand to you to speak with Jordan Ross.
Congratulations again, Jordan. Great race. Pretty, I guess, long race, and I don't think you've caused more blue flags to be waved before today.
Hey guys, yeah, it was it was pretty full-on race. Long 63 laps, a long way around here, and was able to do it without any mistakes. And I thought there'd be a safety car, but that's why I sort of ran that strat that I did. But no safety car tonight, so it was 63 laps just flat out, and had to keep your attention up and make sure you didn't wall it or make a mistake.
A lot of management happening by the looks of things, just not taking too much risk into a couple of the corners, not taking too much risk passing the traffic, not taking too much risk on your strategy.
Yeah, it was just, as you're coming through a bit of traffic, you just had to sort of not try and slice your way, not try and push the point or whatever, just wait for the opportunity to come up, or all the guys in front to sidestep and do your thing, because all the guys behind would have had to put up with the same stuff. So, it was all straightforward, and I feel for Sean. He had a bad quali, but he was probably faster than me tonight. I thought he might have been able to get to me with the tyre overcut there at the end, but once the tyres, if you looked after your tyres, I think mine were maybe 5 or 6 laps or something older than his. If you looked after the tyres, they were pretty consistent there at the end.
And Scott Gamble got a pretty good standing start just to make your first brake application into turn 1 on the first lap a little bit more stressful.
Yeah, he was. He was sort of in a no-win position there. It's a hard place to be outside at turn 1. There's a big wall waiting for you if you try and turn it in from out there. So, it was only, you just had to hit your mark and turn in, and he wouldn't have been able to do much about it. But it was good to see Scott back at the pointy end after everything he's gone through the last sort of 6 months or so. He was really fast tonight, put on the front row. So be cool to see him next few weeks how he goes, because I think he's definitely going to be more podiums and maybe a couple of wins coming up for him.
So you've had your fair dose of Long Beach. Portland a week from now will be quite a bit quicker, quite a bit more open, and not a track that it sounds like many people have a whole lot of experience with compared to here, Bathurst, Road Atlanta, all of those kind of staples.
I don't even know if I own Portland. Never been. I can't even picture it in my head how it goes. So I'll be learning the track with the rest of the guys this week. So it should be good.
The good news is there's not too many corners to have to learn around there. I think it's just sort of 8 or 9, and so that'll give us a good round next week.
Yeah, cool. I'm happy with that. Roll on next week, I guess.
And so you continue to lead the championship. You extend your lead in the championship. Who supports you, helps you, and who do you want to thank?
I just want to thank you guys, as usual, guys at SimSpeed, and obviously all the organisers of V8 Vets, John Van Ree and Van Loon and all those guys, and obviously the race control guys and everyone behind the scenes that makes it happen, all the competitors. It's an awesome series, and I enjoy turning up every week and doing it. So thanks, guys, and see you next week.
Awesome, thank you. Jordan Ross, the race winner, joins us, as our whole podium has. Sounds like there will be a little bit of an unknown in 1 week's time at Portland Raceway. Even our top drivers not especially familiar with it. So that will be certainly one to look forward to. As we wrap up coverage from Long Beach, we've got to pick a Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. And I got to follow my normal rules and my heart here, Dan. So I guess I'm leaning maybe towards Justin McLean.
Up 6 spots from 12th to 6th. I mean, it follows in line with Ken Ladder's nomination. Alternatively, I would shout Mark Poynton, 26th up to 12th here tonight.
How firm are you? Is this a I know what I've got non-negotiable?
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, also, I mean, a lot of spots gain definitely sort of is one thing I like about how Mark's sold tonight. But at the same time, nearly 20 seconds on the road behind Justin, which, yes, you could perhaps say is down to how they started far apart. But I think it's a fair shout. We gave the same to Ken. I am more than happy to let you lead on that one and go with Justin here tonight.
So it's 9-5 Sim Sports Justin McLean who takes the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day from round 3. at Long Beach. You won't have to wait too long for more RaceKraft V8 Vets here on SimSpeed TV as we go racing at Portland in just 1 week's time. With big thanks to everyone who supports the championship and makes it possible. RaceKraft, LGC Images, Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Player One Sim Gear, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, and Sud Speed. David Haynes with Dan Yeaman, and we'll see you in 1 week's time when the RaceKraft Simulations V8 Vets Championship Season 24 continues at Portland.